Popsicles, one of the most successful frozen desserts in the world, started because an 11-year-old forgot his drink outside overnight. In 1905, Frank Epperson mixed soda powder with water in the San Francisco Bay Area, left the stirring stick in the cup, and walked away. By morning, the mixture had frozen solid around the stick. That mistake solved the entire engineering problem of frozen ice before anyone was trying to solve it. The stick became the handle. The cup became the mold. The cold night became the freezer. Epperson originally called the treat the Epsicle, a name built from his own last name. For years, it was just a neighborhood novelty. The important part is that he did not immediately build a dessert empire. He was a kid with a frozen drink on a stick. It took until adulthood for him to bring it to a wider market, selling the treat at Neptune Beach and filing for a patent in the 1920s. His children eventually pushed the name that stuck, Pop's Cycle, shortened into Popsicle. That tiny accident turned into one of the most recognizable freezer aisle products in America. The reason it worked was not just flavor, it was portability. Before that, frozen desserts needed bowls, spoons, vendors, or parlors. A popsicle could be carried, sold cheaply, eaten outside, and handed to a child without much cleanup. The entire product was built around a mistake that made frozen sugar water easier to hold. Cornflakes. The cereal aisle exists in part because someone forgot about cooked grain at exactly the right time. In the late 1890s, at the Battle Creek Sanitarium in Michigan, John Harvey Kellogg and his brother Will Kellogg were experimenting with bland, grain-based foods for patients. This was not supposed to become a sugary breakfast empire. It was health food, designed for digestion, discipline, and the very strict wellness ideas of the sanitarium. The accident came when a batch of cooked wheat dough was left sitting out too long. Instead of throwing it away, the Kellogg's tried rolling it. The dough did not behave like normal dough. It broke into thin flakes. Once baked, those flakes turned crisp. Patients liked them. That forgotten batch became the basis for flaked cereal. Cornflakes specifically came after more experimentation. Will Kellogg realized corn produced a crisper, lighter flake than wheat, and he eventually commercialized the idea. The funny part is that one of the most ordinary breakfasts in the world came out of a place that was anything but ordinary. Battle Creek was full of medical theories, strict diets, and anti-indulgence food experiments. But the thing that survived was the accidental texture. The modern cereal box hides that origin completely. Cornflakes now look inevitable. Like someone sat down and designed breakfast from scratch. They did not. They came from a failed grain mixture, a rolling pin, and the discovery that a mistake could crunch. Worcestershire sauce. One of the most famous condiments in the world exists because two chemists made something so bad they put it away and forgot about it. In Worcester, England, John Wheely Lee and William Henry Perrins mixed an early version of what would become Worcestershire sauce in the 1830s. The origin of the recipe itself is murky, with old stories involving a nobleman in India that food historians have questioned. The part that matters is what happened after the first batch was made. It tasted terrible. Too sharp, too harsh, too strange to sell, so it was set aside. Not improved, not refined, just abandoned. Then time did the work. After months of sitting and maturing, the mixture changed. The anchovies, vinegar, tamarind, molasses, spices, and aromatics mellowed into something deeper and more complex. What had started as a failed sauce became savory, sour, salty, sweet, and fermented all at once. Leah and Perrins tasted it again and realized the mistake had turned into a product. That is the entire trick behind Worcestershire sauce. It tastes like something engineered by a chef, but its identity depends on controlled aging, fermentation, and the kind of patience that originally happened by accident. Today, it is used in Bloody Marys, marinades, steaks, stews, burgers, and Caesar dressing. A sauce that began as something too unpleasant to use became the background flavor in thousands of dishes. Nachos. The most famous stadium snack in America began because a group of hungry customers showed up when the cook was not there. In 1943, in Piedras Negras, Mexico, just across the border from Eagle Pass, Texas, a group of U.S. Army wives arrived at the Victory Club looking for food. The kitchen was not prepared for them. The chef was absent, so the maitre d', Ignacio Anaya, had to improvise. His nickname was Nacho. That detail ended up mattering more than anyone could have guessed. Anaya went into the kitchen and used what he could find: fried tortilla pieces, cheese, and jalapeno peppers. It was not a carefully developed restaurant concept. It was emergency hospitality. Heat the chips, melt the cheese, add peppers, serve it before anyone complains. He called the dish Nachos Especiales. The name eventually got shortened to Nachos. The original version was nothing like the plastic tray of chips and pump cheese that would later take over sports stadiums. That came decades later, when concession businesses figured out how to make cheese sauce shelf-stable, fast, and profitable. The stadium version became its own invention. But the first nachos were simple, sharp, and practical. Tortilla, melted cheese, jalapeno. The accident was not that Anaya dropped something or burned something. The accident was timing. The right customers walked in at the wrong moment, and a staff member with no full kitchen crew turned leftovers into a dish that crossed the border and never really stopped moving. Caesar salad. The most famous salad in the world was not named after Julius Caesar, and it was not born in Rome. It came from Tijuana, Mexico, during a restaurant rush that left the kitchen short on options. In 1924, Cesar Cardini was running a restaurant that attracted Americans crossing the border during Prohibition. On a busy 4th of July, the story goes, the kitchen started running low on ingredients. Cardini needed to feed customers with what was still available, so he turned scarcity into theater. Romaine lettuce, croutons, egg, olive oil, lemon, Worcestershire sauce, parmesan, garlic, and pepper became a table-side performance. The salad was assembled in front of guests, which made the limited ingredients feel intentional instead of desperate. That was the genius of it. The dish did not hide the shortage. It dressed it up. There are disputes around the exact creator. Cesar Cardini gets the main credit, but his brother Alex Cardini and others have been connected to versions of the story. What is much more solid is that the salad became famous through Tijuana, Hollywood visitors, and the drama of tableside service. The original was not a pile of chopped lettuce buried under bottled dressing. It was crisp, simple, sharp, and built for spectacle. Caesar salad became popular because it solved a restaurant problem beautifully. It made a shortage look like confidence. That is why the dish still works. Even now, when every steakhouse and hotel menu has a version of it, the core appeal is the same. A few basic ingredients made to feel more important than they are. Buffalo wings. The most famous bar snack in America came from a part of the chicken that many restaurants used to treat like scraps. Before buffalo wings became game day food, wings were not the premium part of the bird. They were small, bony, awkward, and often used for stock. That is exactly why the story works. The modern Buffalo-style wing is most closely tied to the Anchor Bar in Buffalo, New York, and Teresa Bellissimo in the 1960s. The cleanest supported version is not the old mistaken shipment story. It is the late-night improvisation story. Dominic Bellissimo was working at the bar when friends came in hungry. His mother, Teresa, needed to make something quickly. She took chicken wings, fried them, coated them in hot sauce, and served them with celery and blue cheese. That combination became the template. Fried wing pieces, hot sauce, cooling dip, crunchy celery. It sounds obvious now because the format has been copied everywhere. But at the time, wings were not the obvious star of the plate. They were the thing you figured out how to use. The history is more complicated than the Anchor Bar version alone. John Young, another Buffalo restaurateur, was serving chicken wings in the city around the same era, with his own sauce and style. But the buffalo wing that spread nationally, the version broken into pieces, tossed in hot sauce, and paired with blue cheese and celery, became attached to the Bellissimo story. That is the real lesson. Buffalo wings were not created because chicken wings were luxurious. They became famous because someone turned a low-value part into the perfect drinking food: salty, spicy, fatty, messy, shareable, and almost impossible to eat politely. The accident was that the least glamorous part of the chicken turned out to be the part bars needed most.